So I just start off with acknowledgement to country. So in the spirit of reconciliation, the Department for Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and the connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. And I'd like to welcome Stephen, who is a fantastic presenter, and we're extremely lucky to have him back with us to present this series of webinars, along with another 2 Teacher Academy training sessions as well. So I'm sure we're going to learn a lot from this session today, and also the other 3 sessions that he's doing for us later this year and into term 1 next year. So thank you very much, Stephen, and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Abigail. Hopefully everyone can see my screen and hear my voice. If that isn't the case, then I'm sure you'll let me know. Okay, so we're going to look at Redstone today. And some of you will have heard of Redstone. Some of you may have seen students refer to it or use it. But I'm really going to kind of demystify it and show you kind of the different aspects of what Redstone is, what you can do with Redstone, maybe let you have a bit of a try yourself. And I'll show you where you can get some further resources. So for those I haven't met before, my name's Stephen Payne. I work with the Microsoft Education team in Western Australia. So I'm based in Perth, but I've been over to South Australia quite a few times, and I ran some sessions with Abigail in May of this year, and I think earlier in the year as well online. So all of the resources I show today, I have uploaded into the team. They're under the Redstone channel, so I'll show you where you can find those later on today. So I've put some worlds there as well as this PowerPoint presentation, which has got some links in it. So I'm really just going to talk about Minecraft Education Edition in general. I won't go into too many details. I'm assuming most people have used Minecraft in the classroom or are familiar with the types of things that you can do with Minecraft. Sorry, I'm actually at a school at the moment, and there's a lot of children just outside my window, so apologies if there's a little bit of background noise. Hopefully they'll be moving on soon. So I'd just like to get a feel for where you are with Minecraft. So maybe you want to just type into the chat whether you have never seen Minecraft Education, whether you've seen others do it, whether you've played it a bit yourself, whether you've played it a lot yourself, or whether you've used it in the classroom. And of course, you can be 2 of those. So you may have played a bit yourself and used it in the classroom, or you may have seen others play and used it in the classroom. So you can be 2 or more of those if you want. I'm assuming, as you've signed up for a Redstone session, that you have done quite a bit with Minecraft, or you're at least experienced in the sorts of things that you can do in the classroom. So for some reason, my chat is not refreshing, but I'm going to work that out, and I'll find out where you all are at the moment. So I'm just going to kind of take you right back to the beginning, and the word Minecraft coming from those 2 words, mine and craft. So the mining part is all about breaking blocks and chopping down trees and all of that cool stuff. And then the those blocks. But one of the parts you've got there is the ability to actually use Redstone for engineering and powering your world. So many of the builds that you may have done so far, you may have built a house with some doors and some windows and so on. But what you can do with Redstone is actually do things like you can make an elevator, or you can make a light circuit, or trapdoors, or a railway system. So Redstone is basically the electricity of Minecraft. That's kind of a simple way of looking at it. So I've seen some really great examples in science where students have explored circuitry by using Redstone. And I've seen some great examples in just general builds where students are able to do things that they've not been able to do. So they've been able to automate a farm or power a city by using Redstone. So I'm going to show you some basic examples today. And then hopefully that will give you at least some areas to start exploring. I'm sure if you ask your students what they can do with Redstone, they will crack open Minecraft and show you all sorts of elaborate things. I'm certainly taught something every time I'm in a classroom with students. So Redstone is quite a rare material in survival mode. So remember, there's two main modes of playing Minecraft. Survival is where you don't have any resources and you've got to go and chop down trees to get wood, and you've got to mine for coal and iron and so on. It's quite rare. You can find iron ore in caves, but to actually mine iron ore, you need I think you need a diamond pickaxe or something stronger than that. But once you have redstone, I've put some pictures of, this is a redstone off and this is redstone on, the two states. You can create lights, open doors, build devices that lift stones, raise bridges or move water. There's all sorts of different things that you can do with a redstone. And as you can see there, we've kind of powered some kind of railway cart for pushing zombies around. And you can see my picture of some zombies in a railway cart.
We can see that now, yes.
Excellent. Well, there must have just been a little blip, so please shout out if that happens again.
No worries.
So there are different things that you can use to power redstone. This will make sense when we go in and actually have a look around. So there are things like buttons. So when you press a button, it turns on the power, much like a light button or a light switch or a lever. You've got pressure plates. So they can be used, for example, for managing animals. So when a cow steps on a pressure plate, it might open a gate to let them into the next field and so on. And then you've got a whole load of consumers. So you can open doors, turn on lamps, you can make music, you can open gates, all sorts of different things. So easiest way to explain this is to show you. I've made a little world that kind of highlights the main features of redstone. And I've actually put this in the chat so that you can explore this after. So I'm just going to show you where I put that in case you want to play along at the same time. So in Teams, if you go down to Webinar Redstone under Files, I've uploaded some files there. You'll see I've got a number of different worlds, as well as my PowerPoint presentation, and this one called Mr. Bowman Makes that I'm going to show you later on. But the first one I'm going to show you is called Redstone Examples and Thought That Counts. This is my example. This is my attempt at a really bad pun. So Redstone Examples and Thought That Counts. That's the first world I'm going to go into. And then within that world, you'll actually see the main features of Redstone. You can go and explore this either at the same time as me or later, or even share it with students. So you can just open that Redstone Examples and Thought That Counts, which is where I'm going now. It's always a bit tricky when you first switch over to Minecraft and you're sharing your screen, but hopefully you can see that Minecraft is loading on my screen. And it's at 75%, 93, and there's me. Can you see me, Abigail?
See you, Steve. Just wanted to double check everyone knows to download the world, and then you can just double click to open it up as well.
Brilliant, thank you. So I'm going to resume the game. And in my world here, I'll just first of all show you why I called this thoughts that counts. This is my really funny joke. Someone asked me if I could make the really best castle ever, and I didn't manage to, but what I did manage to do was make a fort that counts. So you can see as I click the sword, it's adding an extra light to my, and the whole reason I spent 25 minutes doing that was to make a pun. It's the fort that counts. Okay, I'll come back to that. I'm going to go over here. Is there lots of laughter happening in the chat? I hope so. So I've just put a lot of slates around so that I know what I'm showing you. So these two blocks in the middle here are redstone ore. So they are what you would see if you were mining. You were in a cave and you found some red specks. They are redstone ore. So in survival mode, you would actually knock that down and you'd end up with these little bits of redstone, or redstone dust as it's called. And you can pick those up and then use those to power your city or your build. So because I'm in creative, knocking those down doesn't actually do anything. Now, there are also, in creative mode, a number of different redstone items. So if I actually search for the word redstone, you'll see that I've got the redstone ore, the deep slate redstone ore. I've never actually used that. The lamp that we'll look at later, the dust, which is kind of like the electric lines, that you can have a block of redstone and then you've got a torch and then a repeater and a comparator. And we'll talk about those as we go through. So there's a whole bunch of different redstone that you can use. Let me just put a lamp there. And if I come over here, I've got a redstone torch. And what can I do with that torch? Well, if I put the torch next to a block, that block is going to be lit up. If I put a block there, that block isn't going to be lit up because there's no redstone power source. So the power source is either a block, I can put a lamp next to a block, or a torch, and then it will power up. But what I can also do, as you can see here, is lay dust down along the floor. Oh, I made a hole. That always happens with me. So if I put dust along the floor and then I put a block of redstone at the end of that dust, that will also work. So that's really useful if you want, you don't actually need the blocks right next to the lamp. You can kind of have lamps in your structure and have the blocks of redstone underground or behind the scenes. So that's a really, really simple tool to do, thing to do. And the same thing happens if I want to power this with the torch. No, wrong one. I didn't choose a lamp, did I? There we go. And I put that there. That's going to light up because I've got a line of red towards it. So those are kind of the main things. The torch and the block, redstone torch, redstone block, are the two things that will power a lamp or some of the other things that we're going to look at. But what you can also do is use a lever. So if I actually increase this dust here and move it all the way to this lever, let me just go back a bit. Now when I turn the lever on, it will actually turn that light on. So that's something that students might do if they want to power a set of lights across a building that they've done or something like that. And I can turn the lever off and I can turn the lever on. So those are the real basics there. One thing to bear in mind though is that that lever doesn't actually, let me just show you, if I take it too long, Oh, you'll see it doesn't reach. It doesn't reach. So the actual path only lasts for 15 lengths. If I want to add more, I've got to use what's called a repeater. So if I put a repeater in there, so let's put it the right way. If I put a repeater there, that allows me to get another 15 lengths. So that can be great. Using a repeater is really useful if you're doing a big elaborate build with maybe lots of different lights or trapdoors or things like that. So those are kind of the two main things to bear in mind. I've got a lamp there, but it could have been a gate. It could have been a piston that we're going to look at later on. Another thing to bear in mind is that the redstone dust doesn't go vertically up a wall. You might kind of expect that, and ever since redstone was introduced in Minecraft, you haven't been able to go vertically up. So you need to be a bit creative about how you use redstone. So in this case, it can go up one block, but it can't go up more than one. So I've used some stairs, and you can see here, and I've now powered that by going up some steps one at a time. So that's just something to bear in mind. If you see something not working, you'll notice that you can't actually place that dust on the vertical, but you can place it anywhere on the horizontal. I'm just going to show you a couple of other things that are quite useful. There's the pressure plate. So generally, you may have noticed that when you put a door down, got to be fast to get in there. When I tread on the pressure plate, it opens the door and then closes it. So maybe I need to be a bit quicker. Well, look at that, super quick. Now I can't get out. How do I get out? I go out the ceiling. I'll blast my way out. So you've got the pressure plate. So that can be useful for letting people in, but also you can use that, as I mentioned earlier, with animals. So you can have it to go from one field to another and those sorts of things. You can also use a button. So you can place a button next to an iron door. But the thing with a button is it doesn't stay in one state. So when you click a lever, it opens the door and the door remains open until I click the lever again. But when I click the button, it's just open for a couple of seconds and then it closes. So that's just something else to bear in mind. So with the button and the lever, we don't necessarily need any redstone dust. They can just use by being in proximity to those to the doors. So you will have noticed, and this quite happens when you first start building, is that when you use a door, if it's a wooden door, you can open it just by clicking on it. But if it's an iron door, you need to actually use redstone in some capacity. Okay. Cool. So that's a pressure plate, and you've got an iron pressure plate, wooden pressure plate, doesn't really matter which one you're using. Similarly, I could have had this button on a wall over here and had redstone linking up to the door. So you've got different ways that you can use that. Now, what I'm going to show you is probably one of the most fun things that that students like when they're using redstone. Because it's quite a powerful little tool. There's something called a piston. In fact, there's two types. Oh, there was a piston until I blew it. I always make holes and blow things up. So if I grab a piston, this is going to test me. And I have got a piston. I just blew up the slate that said what it was. There we go, piston. Luckily, I've saved these on Teams, so I can go back to it. But if I turn on this piston, I've just basically placed the piston on the floor. There's one there. I can place it. I can place the piston anywhere, and you'll see it's got this wooden block there. So what that means is if I place a block in front of that, so let's say I've got gold, for example. I can place gold in front of it, and when I turn that on, it pushes the gold in front, and then I can put more gold, and it pushes that, and you'll see it doesn't bring it back, it just pushes it forward. I don't know, let's put a block of redstone. I don't know how many blocks it can push. Maybe that's something you need to ask students. I reckon they would have worked that out. But a piston basically allows me to push things forward. So it can be great if you want to clear out some space, or you want to move blocks around and that sort of thing. So that's a piston. Now you also have something called a sticky piston. And what a sticky piston is very similar, apart from it's got this goo on it. So anything that you put on there is actually stuck to it. So it moves forward and then it moves back. So let's put a lever. Let's get a lever. And so if I put a lever there, I've got two of them going at the same time here. So the one behind me, the piston, is moving forward and coming back. The one to the left of me is pushing the block forward and then pulling it back. So I've got an example here of something that students quite often do, and that is like a hidden passageway. So you might have kind of a secret door inside a cave, and that looks just like a stone wall. But when I click the lever, it actually opens up and I can walk through. So what I've actually done there, if you look, there's my red iron ore, and I've just hooked that up to a sticky piston on this, two sticky pistons on this side with two blocks of stone, and then two sticky pistons on this side with two blocks of stone. So as I let's just actually close that down there, and I'll just show you with a block with a lever this side. Lever. So you'll see as I click that, it's moving the blocks forward and back. So a sticky piston is really good for those sorts of tools. So I'm just showing you kind of a few of the things that really, I'm just showing you the basics, but these can all obviously be taken and used more creatively. A few more things before I show you some lessons to finish. So with a dispenser, this is a little, this is a block called a dispenser. And then there's one called a dropper. They're both very similar. And the idea is with a dispenser, you can actually go and put items inside the dispenser. And when someone activates it, so they either walk on a pressure plate, or they click a lever, or flick a switch, or whatever it might be, then something will come out. So I've made mine really quite scary. And you'll see when I click it, it's fired out a, in this case, it's fired out a snowball. That went pretty fast, didn't it? Look at that. It's firing out snowballs, whereas a dropper will just drop things. So whatever I put in there, I've got a slate, a redstone lamp, a camera. So it might be that you put resources there for the students. So perhaps they need a camera and a book to write and their journey. And so when you click on the button here, different blocks will drop out of the dropper. I've also used that for maths, for looking at probability, because they're supposed to come out in, they're supposed to be random. So if I've got 56 redstone lamps, 14 slates, 64 cameras, maybe I can do the experiment 100 times and see what proportion I get of each item. So I've done that just with a lever, but I can also do that with a pressure plate or some other kind of system. Awesome. So dispenser and dropper are definitely worth looking at. Oh, there was a chicken having a laugh in the background. Now, probably one of the first places where students will use this is a railroad. So particularly when you're playing in survival, you can't fly around. So when I'm in creative, if I want to get somewhere quickly, I can just fly up in the sky and fly around. But if I'm in survival, you've got to walk everywhere. So one of the things that students quickly learn is that you can get a minecart, put it on a rail track, jump in the, oh, and you see, well, I'm going very slowly and then I've dropped off the end of the line. Okay, so obviously on a flat world like this, a normal railroad is not going to be that great. Could be great for going downhill or going into a mine, but to come out of a mine or to traverse hills and so on, you're going to need a powered rail. So when you go to look for rail, you've got a number of different ones. I'm going to show you the powered rail now. Here we go. And now, if I go into the powered rail with my minecart, here we go. I right click and I go forward. Oh, even worse than the non-powered one. The reason being, I suppose, is because there's no power. So let me get some power in this case. I'll use a lever. And now I've powered it on. Can you see it's powered on? And now when I go forward, wow, I go super fast until I get to where I'll probably need to put a repeater in there as well. So powered rail is a really great way of being able to travel around. So there are a few other things you can do with Redstone, and I'm just kind of showing you there the main components. So the fact that you can set up a circuit with iron ore, you can activate it with a switch, a button, a pressure plate, a block or a torch, and then you can have gates, rail track, pistons, all those other things happening automatically. So I thought I'd just share that with you so you've got an overview of what the main areas are in Redstone. Okay, so how does this come into the curriculum? Well, I mentioned briefly science, so I think year 6 science, where you're looking at circuits, but also physics in high school, and just being able to design with technology, the fact that you can now bring in powered solutions. So I'm going to show you one example that I picked up just today, actually. A colleague of mine in New South Wales shared this lesson on Twitter, which I thought was really cool. So I thought I'd share that with you. It's actually I've actually uploaded it in Teams for you. So if you go into, can I get into Teams here? Yes. So if I go into Teams and then Mr. Bowman makes a really cool little lesson on irrigation. So this is the challenge. Is that going to show? Yes. There we go. So you're going to use the water source to irrigate the crops, but not flood them, using redstone engineering. The irrigation system must be able to send water as a single crop to a single crop at a time, as well as multiple crops simultaneously. A small example to the left has been provided to get you started. Enjoy the challenge. Okay, so let me just show you that. because I think that's just one really great example of how you might use Redstone to solve a problem. And here we can bring in local problems and sustainability and water control and farming and things that are relevant for our communities. So just while I'm loading, I'm going to just check the chat on my other screen. I think there were people laughing. I don't know if they were laughing at my face or something else. Just face. Screen is frozen. Excellent. No, I'm not seeing.
I don't think there's been many questions, Stephen. I think we're all good at the moment.
Excellent. Well, hopefully you're not totally overwhelmed with all those things, but you can go and explore that world at your own pace. But if I go into my worlds here, here's the irrigation one that I just showed you from Mr. Bowman. And so this is a world that you can just make available to your students and let them use their creativity and engineering skills. So let's bring this up and have a look. Yeah, maybe just stand up and stretch your legs while it's loading. It always loads slowly when I'm sharing via Teams. I think there's a lot of power being used by both systems, but we'll get there. Here we go. I can feel it. Almost there. Building terrain. That's got to be a good sign. Green lights going across the screen has got to be good. There we go. So that was the, we've just read that. So if I just fly up in the sky, you can see there's a whole lot of crops there. We've got a water source at the back here, and we've got to build some kind of system that's going to irrigate these features. And then there's an example one over here. So starting example, you'll see when I turn that on, it's using a piston to let out water, and if I turn that off, it uses the piston and blocks the water source. Is that a sticky piston? I think it is. That glass block is moving forwards and backwards. So I think you can see the idea. That's a really basic example, and then the students can use their design skills, their engineering skills, to design a much larger example. And I've also shared in the files a final example as well. So that's an example of something that students have done that actually works really well. I'll leave that for you to go and explore at your own pace. The other thing I wanted to share with you today was a really nice little challenge that I've used with students when we first introduced Redstone. So there's one called My Redstone Machine. And if you download that world, what that does, I'm hoping this is going to be a little bit quicker now. With My Redstone Machine, this will actually my machine, there we go. It just goes through some of the things that I've shown you today, and then the students are given a chest full of all of the different components, and they're asked to make a machine using Redstone. So this just puts a bit of the things that I've just been showing you into a bit of perspective. Okay, so there's just a few kind of different examples and then all of the things they need at the end. So this is something that students could do in a kind of one-off lesson. So here we're just using a, we can stop the waterfall. Again, it's just using pistons, but you can see they've got glass blocks here, so you can kind of see how the redstone travels up. Again, it's got to go up one step at a time. It can't go up vertically. So let's turn the waterfall back on. Look at that. We're controlling nature. A simple light switch. And what have we got here? A locked chest. So, you know, you can't open a chest if there's a block on top of it. Now, look, we can. I wonder how we did that. We can now lock and unlock a chest. That's a nice little example. A diamond dispenser. So push the button and get a diamond. What have we got over here? A bridge so that you can walk across somewhere that might have been treacherous otherwise. And then you're given a whole lot of redstone materials so you can go and build by yourself. So that's a nice kind of little sandbox for the students to work in. And if you're really with it, there's my agent. So why can't I combine redstone engineering with coding with the agent? So there's a lot I can do in that area. So definitely check out those worlds. They're nice little introductions. And then I'm just going to show you one other one that I've picked up online, and it's called the Rube Goldberg machine. So this is just a, you may have done Rube Goldberg machines with marbles and toilet rolls and all of that kind of stuff, but think about doing that in, have I got it in here? I don't think I downloaded it. There's just a, oh, there it is. It's called Technology rather than Rube Goldberg. There we go. So with this one, you're kind of given an example Rube Goldberg machine, and students can kind of explore it and add to it and build on it. Has the screen frozen? Brilliant. So this, if you've ever done anything with Rube Goldberg before, this might look familiar. It's just a whole lot of stuff going on. So maybe as a, I'm going to turn on the power and see what happens. So I've lit, oh, that was quite, probably didn't see all that, but I lit it. It used repeaters, and there's a dispenser at the end, and it follow it all the way around, and it pops out some iron ore, which sets off another thing. And then we've got some pistons down here, and we've got a minecart over here. But you can see it's the kind of thing that students can explore, they can build on, and really just testing their understanding of how the circuitry works. So I think that's a really kind of fun example, the Rube Goldberg contraption. Okay, I'm going to just pause there. I want to just highlight a few useful links for you, and then I'll see if there are any questions. So let's try out some redstone engineering. Yes, we've done that. Excellent. So as I said, these slides are in the file store of this channel, and I just wanted to share a few resources. So the first one is the main Minecraft website. Second one, there is an actual course for teachers on Minecraft and Redstone. It goes into a little bit more detail than I've gone into today. You can just follow that course online. There's some video content from teachers who are using Redstone that's worth checking out. I think some of you have already done the My Minecraft journey that goes through the whole of the 11 hours. Again, support, there is Microsoft Minecraft Education Edition support online. And you can also reach out directly to the Minecraft team at Playcraft Learn on Twitter, or me at Standout Ed, or get in contact with Abigail, and we'll be able to help with any problems. So that's really all I wanted to share with you today. I just wanted to say thank you. And if you do have any questions, shout out. But we are going to keep this this team running into 2022. So if anything comes to you next year when you're trying something, come back to this team, and we'll be able to help you out. Thanks, everybody.